When I think of the actor Olin Soule, I immediately think of John Masters from the Andy Griffith Show. Olin was actually in 5 episodes of the Andy Griffith Show. In 4 of them, he plays the choir director. In 1 episode, he plays the hotel clerk. In all of these episodes, he's called John Masters. His name doesn't change at all throughout the series. Now, that's what I think of when I hear the name Olin Soule. But there is so much more to this man than we ever imagined. Olin was born in 1909 in La Harpe, Illinois. Sometime around the age of 7, they moved to Des Moines, Iowa, where he lived until he was 17 years old. He then jumped right into his theatrical career. He joined the Jack Brooks Tent Show in Jackson County, Iowa. After leaving the tent show, he went on to Chicago for about 7 years before moving into radio in 1933. Now, Olin was a little bitty guy. He weighed about 135 pounds, just as scrawny as he could be. But his voice deceived people. He sounded like a much bigger, more oppressive figure. He continued to develop a name in radio and was well known for his role in Captain Midnight, which was a radio adventure series. But when Captain Midnight made the leap to television in 1954, the slim-statured Olin couldn't make the same role work. Instead, he starts showing up as a scientist in a lab coat or in commercials for Ovaltine. It didn't take long for him to get shoehorned into the stock geek with glasses role. On Dragnet, he seemingly wore the same wardrobe playing forensic scientist Ray Pinker. And it wasn't very long until he was firmly typecast, on screen at least. If you needed a guy like Mr. Peepers that had that nerdy look, he was your man. So when the Andy Griffith Show needed to fill the role of John Masters, the cardigan-wearing choir director and sometimes hotel clerk, they turned to him. He made his first appearance in the episode called Barney and the Choir, and he popped up in 4 more episodes between 1963 and 1964. About the same time, he could be seen as a court clerk on Perry Mason. As the 60s went on, he continued to appear here and there on different TV shows as a pencil pusher, a doctor, a clerk, a brainy guy, and he was even the go-to guy if you wanted to sell prune juice. Yeah, he was actually in a prune juice commercial. Now we come to the casting of Batman, the animated series. Filmation, the company behind it, had a history of hiring comedic actors to portray its DC comic heroes. Ted Knight from The Mary Tyler Moore Show, Pat Harrington from One Day at a Time, provided the voices for the Green Lantern and Atom. When it came time to find a Cape Crusader, Filmation utilized the oldest method in Hollywood, using their connections and their connections and their connections. Marvin Miller was best known for his voice of Robbie the Robot. Like so many actors of his era, he had risen through the ranks through radio. During his time in radio, he worked on the First Nighter program and became friends with Olin Soule. Miller started working for Filmation as the voice of Aquaman, and he recommended his old colleague, Olin, for the role of Batman. The creators of Filmation fell in love with his voice. They just couldn't believe that this little guy with glasses could sound like he was 10 feet tall. They thought he was a wonderful guy, and he was truly talented. At this time, he had never done animation before, and he was kind of startled when he found out how easy the work was. Voice actors don't have to memorize anything. No wonder he settled into the role. He continued to be the voice of Batman throughout the 70s and into the early 80s as the character joined the Super Friends, and then it jumped to another animation company, Hanna-Barbera. His television resume is quite extensive too. He made a total of 6 appearances on Perry Mason, mostly as a court clerk, but also as a bank employee and a water company official. The show Petticoat Junction used him 2 times. In 1967, he was in the episode Shoplifter at the Shady Rest, and in 1968, he was in Ma's Helping Hand. In addition to that, he appeared several times as the clerk at the Carlton Hotel, the San Francisco residence of the character Paladin in the TV series Have Gun Will Travel. The list of his supporting roles and starring roles is a really long one. He was on the George Burns and Gracie Allen Show, I Love Lucy, The Danny Thomas Show, The Real McCoys, The Beverly Hillbillies, Mr. Ed, and The Twilight Zone. Olan Soule is one of those great, hey, it's that guy actors of the 1950s, 60s, and 70s, popping up in everything from I Love Lucy to The Twilight Zone to Fantasy Island. But it was the time that he spent as Batman, lending the Caped Crusaders' paternal tone that perfectly offset Casey Kasem's high-energy Robin, the boy wonder. That's what will stick with our generation the most. Adam West was our live-action Batman, but Olan Soule was our animated Batman. Olan married Norma Elizabeth Miller in September of 1929. They had 2 children, and they were married for 63 years until Norma's death in 1992. Olan was a 32nd degree Mason, as well as a member of the Los Angeles Show Business Shrine Club. On February 1st, 1994, he died at age 84 of lung cancer in Corona, California. He was at his daughter's home. His burial took place at Forest Lawn Memorial Park, Hollywood Hills, in Los Angeles. Thank you so much, Olan, for your great work that you did in front of the camera and as a voiceover actor. You excelled in both aspects of your work. Rest in peace. Thank you so much for watching, guys, and we'll keep chasing the classics.